Hiya folks, and welcome back to Fishing with Den. So, you ever seen one of these? This is a pull cord chopper, and it's pretty straightforward. It's just like the blender at home. Got some chopping blades in it, and it chops things like corn. Now, the reason I'm using it is because it chops corn a lot less fine than if you use a blender. Now, I've used a blender quite a lot in the past and made up a mush, and probably because I've left it in too long. But for example, if I show you this stuff, in fact, if I go to that one, you can see how the particles are a reasonable size. They're not the normal sized corn particles, but they're there to just give the fish a little bit of feed without it being too much. Now, mostly I tend to use this in winter, and for us we're coming to the end of winter now, but still pretty cold, and I've been set up in the last sort of half an hour and I haven't seen a fish jump yet. So how well this might work today, I don't know, but the point of this video is to show you how to use this thing and some options for it. So first of all then, if we talk about the standard use of it, take the top off. These things, by the way, are only a few quid, probably. I haven't actually looked lately, but let's call it £6 to £10, something like that. And that's pretty damn cheap actually. So what you've got to do is you've got a little knobbly bit in the bottom here, and put your blades in. If you don't do that, you're going to end up with a problem, because you'll put your corn in, then you won't be able to put the blades in. So get your corn, put your thumb over the top, good one Den, and again that covers up a hole, and that'll help you for later too. Now these things will generally take a full tin of corn. Just put that down for a minute. Keeping my finger over the top of it. There we are, look. And now we've got a free hole in the top. I've fallen foul of this before. There's always some parts of corn or small bits of corn, excuse me, that are going to go down there. Put the top in. It's basically a square drive. Oops. Put it on, lock it off, and then if you pull it about 10 times, I'll put this on my knee. Now that's usually enough, and if you leave the juice in as well, obviously that all helps. But what it also does, if you take the juice out of it, as I've done there, because I've spilled some of the juice, you've still got 1 or 2 bits of corn on the top. So I'll just replace that with a fraction more water. Put that in there like that, and then we'll give it a few more pulls, and you can do this until you've got what sort of consistency you want. There we go. So that's about it. Then all you do, get yourself a container, hold in the little middle cutter piece in, and then that's it. You've then got exactly what you want. I'll show you that camera, it's probably better to show that one. So that's the basic idea. Now, as I say, the idea is that we just put this out on things like a winter's day, or if you're fishing for smaller fish like roach and little skimmers and stuff like that. If you put large amounts of corn in, you might well find that you're feeding them off, especially if you're fishing for silverfish and stuff like that. So this idea gives you an attraction in the water, but it also, because it's so sort of fine and chopped, it actually gives the fish something to browse on around the area. Hopefully they're going to stay a bit longer then, aren't they? So that's the plan, and I'm going to feed that today. I'm fishing with a pole today, but we'll come back to feeding in a second. Some options then. The first thing you can do, as you saw right from the outset, is just use 2 or 3 drops of this red colouring. Now I did these overnight because it takes on the colour better, but as you can see, that's pretty good. It does wash out, but it's going to take a little bit of time for that to do it. If you were going to leave this in for 3, 4, 5 hours, it might almost go back to yellow again, but it's hopefully going to be in there for a very short time. Another option is to do this with it, which looks exactly the same as the one I've made, but in actual fact it's got a teaspoon of garlic in it, so that's a good thing too, and gives you a lot more smell. And of course, having made this one, if I'm feeding this and that doesn't work, we can always go back to what we were talking about in previous weeks, which is to just put a squirt of molasses in, give it a few minutes to sort of melt, if you like, give it a stir around, and you've got yet another flavour. So that's the basic plan. Obviously, it's a good idea to clean these, so what I always do is just throw it in the net. I've got a barbed wire fence right behind me, so this isn't great today, guys. Bear in mind, if you're match fishing, this may not be a good idea, because they may complain that you're feeding your peg before you do it, but if you're just pleasure fishing, this isn't a problem. Just give the blades a bit of a dunk, and then you can use the rest of it just to clean off the thing. And that's it. Now, you could say, well, I'll just use the blender, and that would be fine too. As I say though, it tends to make it more of a mush or a puree sort of thing, which, you know, that works too. But of course, I'd have to use the wife's blender, and she's not always happy with me making a mess in the kitchen. And that thing you can bring with you, and if you need more during the day, you can just get another tin of corn out and you can use it. And that's all there is to it. So in terms of feeding then, I'm going to feed it today. I've got a big pot set up on the pole, so I'll just put a small amount in there and just feed it out. You can feed it through a small pot attached to the top of your pole as well. But also what you can do, if you're not fishing with a pole, because I know some of you guys don't actually use a pole, what you can do, if you're sparing about it, is bring some ground bait with you and just mix some of this. I'll use this one because that garlic sticks to your hands. Just get some of this and put it in with your ground bait, and you can create a similar sort of situation. It's nice and cloudy when it gets down. You've got those little particles. The ground bait's got very fine particles, so you shouldn't be feeding too much into your swim. And as I say, oftentimes this is for winter, or particularly if you're fishing for smaller fish, which if you fed large amounts of bait, you could end up feeding off. Now obviously if you're fishing a commercial where there's huge amounts of fish in the summer, this probably isn't even worth trying. But as I say, for sort of spring, autumn sort of weather, winter, that sort of thing, always worth a go. So I'm now going to carry on and give this a go, and hopefully I'll catch a few fish. But for you, that's the end of the video. Sorry about that. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you dig, please click the like button. If you want to subscribe, feel free. And if you want to contribute, that'd be great too. Anyway, till next time then, bye for now.